Hi, this is David Fish, and I would like to show you how I might mark up a text, Philippians 2:12 to 18, using the highlighting tool in Accordance Bible software. By this time, you should have watched the Lighting the Lamp podcast that talks about those things. And so, to get started, what I want to do, you see I've got the text from the NIV there. I want to mark certain things that I find in this text, and I've read through this text several times, and so I'm just going to mark first off some couplets. In verse 12, I see a reference to the Apostle Paul's presence, but also his absence. And so first I want to highlight presence, and I'll click on the highlighting button and mark that as yellow. And then presence seems to be coupled together with absence, and so I'll do the same thing, yellow. As you saw on the video, if you click here, you can keep that highlighting palette on the screen. Also in verse 12, I see another one. Work out your salvation with, and we've got another couplet with fear. So let me highlight fear. We'll mark that yellow. And also trembling. Fear seems to go with trembling. And in verse 13, I've got another. It is God who works in you both to will and to act. That phrase or that term to will seems to be one of those. That is coupled together with the idea to act. So I'm going to mark those. In verse 14, I've got a contrast. Do everything without grumbling or arguing. Grumbling seems to be coupled together with arguing. Now, if I want to put out the last used highlight, I don't have to click on the icon there. I can just use Command 8. Or if I am on a Windows machine, it would be Control 8. Grumbling or arguing, okay, that you may become, I see another one, blameless and pure. Blameless seems to be coupled with pure, so let me mark those. Okay, children of God without fault in a generation that's described with two terms, warped seems to be coupled with the term crooked. Okay, so warped and crooked. I'm going to move the text up. Then you'll shine light among them like stars in the sky as you hold firmly to the word of life. Okay. Verse 16, Paul will be able to boast that he did not run or labor. The term run seems to be coupled together with the term labor in vain. Okay. Verse 17, we've got another one, poured out like a drink offering on the two things, sacrifice and service. Sacrifice seems to be coupled with service. So let me mark both of those right now. Coming from your faith, two more sets that are the same. In verse 17 it says, I am glad, and glad seems to be coupled with the word rejoice. So let me mark glad and rejoice. And they both appear in verse 18 as well. And so there we have that. Now, there are some other things I want to mark. I'll probably mark differently. I see mention of God, and so I think I want to locate instance of God and mark that. So in verse 13, I've got a reference to God. Let me highlight the word God, click on highlights. Not only do we have markers, we also have some symbols, and you can see one of the symbols I have is for the Trinity. So let me mark that, and also there's a reference about His good purpose. That's a reference to God, and so I want to mark His, and so Command 8 will bring up that Trinity symbol. Okay, and then in verse 15, mention you will be children of God. So let me Command 8 to mark that. And that symbol is for the Trinity. And so I see Christ there. So I'll highlight Christ and Command 8 as well. Now, I'm not finished. I want to mark some personal pronouns. I want to mark both first person pronouns and also second personal pronouns. But in order to do that, I'm actually going to do a search. Second person personal pronoun will do first. That would be you, possessive pronoun your. And so in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'll come up here. You can see this is set to verses. What I want to do is set it to words. And so the second person personal pronoun would be you or perhaps your. And I can find both of those if I just type in you and put an asterisk. That would find both you and your. Anything after the you with would find any other word. Now I don't want to search the entire Bible for that, and so what I'm going to do is I'll click on that plus if I didn't already have range over here. What I want to do is I want to set a particular range. What I want to do is search just this range, and so I'll click on that down arrow and I will define that range. Actually, I want to create a new range, and so let me call that Philippians 2, 12 through 18, and the definition of that new range is Philippians 2, 12 through 18. I will update that, and so you can see right here it says the range that I'm going to search is Philippians 2, 12 to 18. And so all I have to do is click enter, and it searches for all of those instances of the second person personal pronoun. And so I can highlight all of those at the same time. All I have to do is highlight the first one like this, click on my highlighter, and what I want to do is I will make that a red underline. But notice right here, if I hold the shift key down when I do that, it says, are you sure you want to highlight every hit in the front window? And the answer is yes. And so in one swoop, I was able to mark all of the second person personal pronouns with the red underline. Now, I also want to search the first person personal pronouns, and so I'll go back to my search box and I will search for I. And I can see it has several instances of I. And so let me pull up my highlight screen. I will do that with a green underline. Once again, Shift will underline all of the hits. Are you sure you want to underline every hit in the front window? Yes. And so the I's are underlined with green. But I might also find a my. So let me search for my. Okay. And so I'll highlight that. Highlight, hold the shift down, and that will be marked with green as well. And we might even see a me. Yes, there is one instance, and so I'll just mark that. Command 8 will apply that last one. Let me make sure I got me highlighted. Command 8. That didn't do the green underline, so I'm going to clear that and actually click on this, and there we have that. And so I have marked all of the personal pronouns with either a red or green underline. I'm going to go back to my verses so we can see what this all looks like. before we continue. And you can see I've got my text highlighted. Okay, as we want to continue on, I want to show you something that's very, very important. If you make a mistake, let's just highlight one of these things. If we make a mistake with our highlight, you can re-highlight the word, click on this, and just click on clear, and it is gone. And so let me actually put that back the way it was. Another thing that is important for you to understand is that and the word my is actually not highlighted yellow. I just had highlighted that. That's why it was there. A lot of times you might have a Bible that you've marked up, and then you want to start with a brand new Bible. You are able to hide the highlights on a particular text if you want. And so if you are on a Mac machine, remember this keystroke, it was also in the podcast, Command T brings up this dialog box. If you're on a Windows, it would be Control key. You can click on Advanced, and you can put a check mark here, hide the word highlighting, and all of that disappears. Actually, you've not erased that. You can bring it back, Command T or Control T, and you can take that check mark out of there, and all your highlights are back. Okay, there is one more thing that I want to do. We can do some morphological analysis, but in order to do that, we need to switch our screen around just a little bit. If we want to do a search, say, for the imperatives, basically what we're going to have to do is set our main text to be the Greek text. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here, I'm going to click on this down arrow, and instead of NIV, I'm going to choose this NA28 Greek text, okay? And then I also want the NIV to be there, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a parallel text, and I'm going to add the NIV there. So you can see on the left I have my Greek text, Philippians 2:12 to 18. Most of you will not be able to read that, but you can still get at what this text is all about. Doesn't matter. One of the things I want to show you is when you have a Greek text and an English text added in parallel panes, there is what we call sympathetic highlighting. For example, if I hover over a Greek word, on the other side, you've got that word highlighted. The Greek word hupekusate means you have obeyed. I can do the same thing if I highlight an English word, good purpose. You can see in the Greek it highlights the one Greek word that is translated good purpose. And so that is going to be helpful in our highlighting the imperatives. Our base text is the Greek New Testament, and so we can search the Greek text for imperatives. Those are command words, even if we don't know any Greek. And so I'm going to give you a command that will bring up a graphical search, and we'll be able to search out imperatives in this. To pull up a graphical search of the Greek, I'm going to use Command 2. If I'm on a Windows machine, it would be Control 2. And so you can see what it has done in our text here. It has linked a Greek construct. Our main text that we're searching on is this Greek text, and we can search it for imperatives even if we don't know anything about Greek. on the right-hand side, we've got this Greek construct that is set up. And so what I want to do is I want to tell it what I want to search for. An imperative will be a verb, and so I'll drag verb into that. That brings up another dialogue. Notice person, number, tense, voice, mood. Actually, the imperative is a mood, and so all I have to do is highlight imperative and click OK, and then I will search this. And notice in my text, Philippians 2:12-18, it's highlighting all of the imperatives. And so if I want to mark the imperatives in the NIV, what I can do is I can see what it is that is marked as the imperative. Now, we've got NIV with phrase tagging. You can see in verse 12, continue to work out is the translation of this Greek word that is highlighted. But work out is actually a deeper shade, and so that is what that means, work out. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to highlight work out, click on my highlights, and I like green for our imperatives. And so I have marked that. In 2:14 we've got a Greek word, and you can see that is do. And so what I want to do is I want to highlight the word do, and I'll also make that green. And then I have two more. I have kairete is the word, and let me make sure I get that highlighted. Glad, you should be glad. Yeah, you should be glad. And so that is going to be highlighted with a green. And you should rejoice with me. And so I'll mark that with green as well. And so what I have done is I have added all of the imperatives. Even though I don't know necessarily anything about Greek, I've identified the words in the Greek text that are imperatives, and I have marked them. Now, I'm going to go back to the very start. What I'm going to do is I will delete this window, I will delete this window, and I'm going to pull up my NIV, double-click on that, and it will open up the NIV text. It will open up the info pane. I can close that pane by clicking on this X or just by doing that. Let me go ahead and mark this section that we want to look at, Philippians 2, 12-18, and I will make that a little bit larger, and so you can see that I've got that entire text highlighted. I'm going to go to my Jing, and I'm going to take a picture of Philippians 2, 12-18 with the highlighting, and I will capture that image, and I will save it, and I will give it a name, Philippians 2, 12-18 with highlights. Click Save, and then I'll be able to put that into a document.